Welcome back to the deep dive. So, I want to start today with a bit of a word association game.
Okay.
If I say hunting lease, what's the very first image that pops into your head? Be honest.
Honestly, probably a gate with a rusty padlock on it.
Right. A padlock,
Yeah,
a transaction. Money changes hands, you get a key, you go hunt. It feels very commercial.
it does.
It's almost like renting a parking spot, but for a deer stand.
It's easy to view it that way, and I think a lot of people do. You look at it through a purely economic lens. You pay X dollars, you get Y resource. In this case, the resource is access to game.
Simple, cold economics.
Exactly.
Exactly. But today, we are going to completely dismantle that view. We're looking at an article by Patrick Long for Basecamp Leasing, and he makes a really provocative argument.
Mm-hmm.
He suggests that the annual hunting lease isn't just a transaction. I mean, it is actually one of the most powerful and arguably necessary engines we have for wildlife conservation.
It's a classic case of what I call hidden mechanics. We see the hunter in the woods, or we see the no trespassing sign, but we completely miss the financial and ecological machinery that's operating in the background.
The machinery that actually allows that forest to exist in a healthy state.
Right.
So that is our mission today. We are going to pop the hood on that machinery. We're going to trace the dollar from the hunter's wallet into the soil, see how it turns into better habitats. And this is the part that really surprised me, how it eventually benefits species that the hunter has, well, zero interest in harvesting.
Bees, butterflies.
We're talking bees, butterflies, and songbirds.
And we can't forget the human element. There is a psychological shift that happens when you move from a visitor to a leaseholder. It fundamentally changes how human beings interact with nature.
It changes the way you look at a tree or a patch of grass.
It really does.
I want to get to that psychology because the hotel versus home analogy they use is brilliant. But let's start with the hard economics. The article paints a picture of the landowner that I don't think many of us, non-landowners ever consider. We tend to think if you own 500 acres of woods, you just sit on the porch, drink lemonade, and watch the trees grow.
If only it were that simple. That is definitely the Disney view of land ownership. The reality is that land is a liability as much as it is an asset.
Yeah.
Owning land is hard work, and it is expensive work.
How so? I mean, aside from the initial purchase price.
Well, you have property taxes, which never go away. You have liability insurance. You have fence maintenance, which is just endless. You have erosion control. But beyond just keeping the land, most landowners actually want to improve it.
Right.
They want healthy timber stands. They want robust wildlife populations. They want to stop invasive species from taking over. But conservation is incredibly expensive.
So it's not just a case of letting nature take its course.
Absolutely not. And that's a misconception we need to clear up. Letting nature take its course in a modern, fragmented landscape usually means your land gets overrun by invasive vines, the forest floor chokes out, and biodiversity just plummets.
Wow.
To manage land correctly, you need diesel for tractors, you need tons of seed, you need specialized equipment, labor. The article calls these pipe dreams for many landowners if they are relying solely on their own pockets.
And this is where the lease enters the chat.
It's the financial bridge. The annual lease provides a steady, reliable stream of income that isn't dependent on, say, harvesting timber, which you can only do every few decades, or selling off parcels for development. It helps the landowner keep the land intact.
So the hunter pays the fee.
Mm-hmm.
Does the landowner just go buy a new truck?
I mean, it's their money. They could. But the text explicitly notes that in this ecosystem, those dollars are overwhelmingly reinvested right back into the property.
It creates a symbiotic loop.
It does.
Walk me through that loop, because I think this is the core engine we talked about.
Okay. Money comes in from the lease. The landowner, or often the leaseholders themselves, using their own funds, uses that capital for habitat restoration. We're talking about planting, burning, thinning.
All that stuff.
And because the habitat improves, the carrying capacity of the land increases.
Okay, carrying capacity. Unpack that term for me.
It's a fundamental ecological concept. It basically means the maximum number of animals a specific habitat can support healthily without, degrading the environment.
Got it.
If you have poor habitat, you might only support 5 deer per square mile. If you improve the habitat, you might support 20. Better habitat means a higher carrying capacity.
So the herds become healthier and larger.
Right.
Which means the hunting gets better.
Exactly. The product improves. Which means the lease is worth more, or at least ensures the hunter renews for next year. It creates a self-sustaining cycle of conservation funding that just wouldn't exist without that commercial transaction at the start.
Okay, I buy the economic argument. Makes sense on paper. But I want to know what we are actually buying here. The article lists 5 specific projects that lease money typically funds.
Right.
I want to drill down into these because I think the details matter. The first one is planting food plots.
This is the bread and butter of wildlife management. If you know a hunter, you've definitely heard them talk about food plots.
But isn't this just baiting? Like throwing a foul of corn on the ground?
No, and that's a crucial distinction. Baiting is dumping food to lure an animal to a specific spot to shoot it. It's temporary and often nutritionally void.
Okay.
A food plot is agriculture. It's farming for wildlife. It's planting acres of clover or brassicas or chicory. And the key is that it provides nutrition year-round, not just during hunting season.
So it helps them survive the winter.
Exactly. Think about late February.
Yeah.
The woods are gray, the acorns are gone, the natural browse is depleted. That is when deer actually starve or suffer immense stress.
Right.
If you have a brassica plot turnips and radishes, that gives them high-energy food right when they need it most. A food plot can be the difference between a doe aborting her fawn due to stress or carrying it to term. It's about herd health, not just harvest.
Okay. Project number 2, controlled burns. Now, to the uninitiated, paying someone to set your woods on fire seems counterproductive.
Maybe even dangerous.
Yeah.
It does sound destructive, doesn't it? But fire is one of the most natural and necessary forces in nature. Indigenous people understood this for thousands of years.
What does it actually do to the land?
Imagine a forest that hasn't burned in 50 years. The underbrush is thick, woody, and dead. Nothing green is growing at ground level because the layer of dead leaves, the duff is too thick.
That's choked out.
Completely. A cool burn, which is a low-intensity, managed fire, clears out that dead patch. It recycles nutrients instantly back into the soil. And importantly, it triggers what we call successional growth.
Successional growth.
It's the fresh, green, protein-rich shoots that pop up weeks after a fire. It's nature's salad bar. That is rocket fuel for deer and creates perfect nesting cover for turkeys. It literally rejuvenates the ecosystem.
It resets the clock.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we're farming and
Yeah.
we're burning. The third one is thinning timber.
This is all about sunlight. If you walk into a mature forest and it looks like a park, big trees, lots of shade, open ground where you can see for 200 yards, that is actually a food desert for wildlife.
Really, it looks so pretty, though. That's what I imagine a good forest looks like.
Pretty to us humans, but useless to a deer. Deer don't eat tree trunks. They eat browse leaves, twigs, forbs, weeds. If the canopy is closed, sunlight can't hit the ground, so nothing grows down there. Thinning timber removes selected trees to let the sun hit the forest floor. The text describes it as opening up the understory.
So you're making the woods messier, essentially.
Yes, wildlife loves a mess. Thick, brushy, messy cover is where the food and the safety are. If you want wildlife, you have to ruin the park aesthetic.
Number 4, restoring wetlands. This feels like a heavy lift. We aren't just planting seeds here.
No, this involves hydrology. It means fixing levees, installing water control structures, managing seasonal flooding. It's vital for waterfowl, ducks, and geese.
And wetlands are vanishing so quickly.
They are. So having private money flowing into maintaining these water systems is a massive win for biodiversity.
And the last one, which might be the most controversial for some listeners, managing predators.
It is controversial, but biologically necessary in many areas. We have to remember that humans have removed the apex predators, wolves and cougars, from much of the landscape.
And that leaves a vacuum.
It does. And mesopredators fill that vacuum.
Yes.
Mid-sized predators, coyotes, raccoons, opossums, skunks. Without the big guys to keep them in check, their populations can explode.
And what happens when they explode?
Fawn recruitment drops to zero.
Recruitment. That sounds like a corporate term.
It's the number of babies that survive to become adults. If you have too many predators, the turkeys hatch, but the poults get eaten in 3 days. The fawns don't make it to winter.
Wow.
Managing predators isn't about eradicating them. It's about tipping the scale so the prey species have a fighting chance to reproduce.
And the article mentions that the results of these 5 things happen fast. This isn't a wait 20 years situation.
Surprisingly fast. The source mentions that if you plant clover plots in year 1, you will see more and hardier deer by the very next season.
And bigger racks.
which hunters love, obviously, but we should clarify, big antlers are just a biological signal of a healthy animal with excess nutrition. You don't get big antlers if you're starving or stressed.
So trophy quality is actually a decent proxy for overall ecosystem health.
A very good one, yeah.
So we've established that the hunter's money makes the deer healthier. That makes sense. But here is where the article blew my mind a little bit. It talks about the ripple effect.
This is the aha moment for me.
Right, because you can't build a Ritz-Carlton for a deer and tell the butterflies they aren't allowed to check in.
Precisely. An ecosystem is a web. You pull one string and everything moves. The article does a great job of connecting the dots here.
Let's trace a few of those. Go back to the food plots.
Okay, you plant clover for deer, but clover is a legume. It flowers. Who loves flowers?
Yes.
Bees, monarchs, native pollinators. We are in a pollinator crisis globally. A hunting food plot acts as a sanctuary for these insects.
So the hunter is paying for the seed to shoot a buck.
But he's inadvertently funding a buffet for the local bee population.
That is fantastic. And what about the timber thinning? We said that was for deer browse.
It is, but that thick, messy understory we talked about,
Yeah.
that is the specific habitat required by small mammals, rabbits, voles, and ground-nesting songbirds like the wood thrush or grouse. They need that cover to hide from hawks. A park-like forest gets them eaten.
A thin forest keeps them safe. So the bird watcher actually owes the deer hunter a high five.
In many cases, yes. They are utilizing the same enhanced habitat.
What about the wetlands? Obviously good for ducks.
But water is life. You restore a wetland, you're bringing in frogs, salamanders, dragonflies, and the fish populations that live in those waters. You are supporting the entire aquatic food chain.
And even predator management, if you reduce the raccoons to save the turkey eggs.
You are also saving the eggs of the songbirds, the turtles, and the salamanders. Raccoons are opportunistic, they eat everything. Reducing that pressure helps the whole bottom half of the food chain.
It's fascinating. The synthesis here is that you really cannot improve the land for one species without lifting up the entire biosphere.
That's the takeaway. The lease dollars are effectively subsidizing the health of the entire local web of life, as I like to say. The bee doesn't care who paid for the clover. The bee just knows there's lunch.
I love that. The bee doesn't care. I want to shift gears now to the human side. We talked about money, we talked about biology, but the article spends a lot of time on the psychology of tenure.
This is where we separate the shooters from the conservationists.
They use an analogy that I think everyone can relate to, the hotel versus the home.
It's a powerful metaphor. The text compares short-term access, like a weekend pass or public land, hunting to staying in a hotel.
And we all know how people treat hotels. You drop your wet towels on the floor, you leave the lights on.
You maybe aren't as careful with the furniture. Exactly. The mindset is, I'm paying for a service and I'm checking out tomorrow. It's not malicious necessarily, but it's detached.
Not my problem.
Right. And this leads to trash being left behind, gates left open, or just a general lack of respect.
Contrast that with the annual lease.
The annual lease is home ownership. You aren't just visiting, you live there, metaphorically. You have the keys for the whole year. You know you're coming back next month and next season.
How does that change behavior?
It creates what the article calls a sense of oneness with the land. Practically, it means you stop stumbling around, you scout, you learn where the turkeys roost, you learn the drainage ditches, you become intimate with the geography.
You start to notice changes.
Exactly. And that leads to stewardship. It fosters a partnership with the landowner. The leaseholder becomes the unofficial caretaker.
They list some specific behaviors. One is trash.
A leaseholder picks up trash, even trash that isn't theirs, because it's their spot now. They take pride in it. They don't want to look at a rusty soda can while they're sitting in their stand.
Another is security.
This is huge for landowners. Absentee landowners worry constantly about poachers and trespassers. A leaseholder is a set of eyes and ears. They protect the property because they have a vested interest.
They don't want someone else stealing the resources they paid for.
That's it. They're the first line of defense against exploitation.
But the one that really struck me as the ultimate proof of this mindset shift is the concept of trigger discipline.
This is the most direct example of the economic incentive working. It's where psychology and biology meet.
Explain it for the non-hunters listening.
Okay, imagine you are on public land. You see a young buck. He's small, maybe not fully mature, but you know that there are 50 other hunters in these woods. If you don't shoot him, the guy over the next ridge will.
So you take the shot.
You take the shot. It's the tragedy of the commons. You maximize your immediate return because you can't guarantee the future.
But on a lease,
On a lease, you control the access. You look at that young buck and think, if I let him walk today, he will be 30% bigger next year, and I, or my son, or my daughter, will be the one who gets to hunt him.
so you pass.
You pass, you lower the weapon, you delay gratification, you are investing in the future stock of the herd.
That decision.
That decision to let an animal live so it can thrive and breed is the essence of conservation, and it's driven by the security of the lease.
It's moving from extraction, what can I get today, to cultivation, what can we build for tomorrow?
Precisely. And the author argues this mindset is what we need to pass down to the next generation. It transforms hunting from a blood sport into a responsibility.
It teaches patience and foresight. So if we zoom out, we started this conversation thinking a hunting lease was just a parking fee, a J key.
And we found out it's actually a conservation engine.
It solves the landowner's cash flow problem, allowing for expensive habitat work that otherwise just wouldn't happen.
It improves the biology, feeding everything from whitetails to monarch butterflies.
And it rewires the human brain, turning transient users into long-term stewards who actually care about the soil in the future.
It really challenges the binary view that nature and commerce have to be enemies. I think we often feel that way, that money corrupts nature. But in this case, the commerce is the fuel that keeps the nature running.
It's a great reminder that incentives matter. If you want people to protect something, give them a stake in it. Make them feel like owners, not just renters.
That's the key. Ownership drives care. When you own the outcome, you care about the process.
And that brings us to the end of this deep dive. But I want to leave you with a thought based on that hotel versus home analogy, because I can't get it out of my head.
It's a sticky concept.
The article proves that long-term connection is what saves the land. So here is my question for you, the listener. Look at your own life, your community, your workplace, maybe even your relationships. Where are you acting like a hotel guest, just passing through, leaving the towels on the floor, waiting for someone else to clean up? And what would happen if you decided to sign the lease, so to speak, and treat it like you own it?
That is a big question. Stop renting, start owning.
Something to chew on. Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.
Catch you in the next Deep Dive.